Hello and welcome to coverage of Grand Prix Denver. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Reed Duke, and we got a nice one here. Ben Sek playing blue-red control, a little more of a fringe deck in standard. We've seen it around, but not heavily played. He's playing against Shuhei Nakamura playing blue-white flash.
Ben has a very cool deck here. Blue-red control featuring all the classic cards that you expect, including Glimmer of Genius, Torrential Gearhulk, lots of burn spells, but also Dynavolt Tower. I predict that this has to be a matchup that he's reasonably pleased to face.
He has to be, right?
Yeah, and Shuhei is not off to a good start here. Missing land drops, discarding the hand size.
Oh, no, he's going to do it again, too.
Yeah.
Reed, this could get ugly. Now, the good news is that Ben's deck isn't capable of applying enough pressure to really close the door on the game, at least life total-wise, before Shuhei can draw some cards out of it. The downside is that Ben gets to just have the luxury of crafting a hand, setting up a beautiful situation, and unfortunately, Shuhei will probably find himself too far behind. God, if he ever finds a second land, which he has not done yet, by the way.
Mm-hmm. You make a good point, though. This is one of the costs of playing a control deck, or one of the strengths of playing an aggro deck, is being able to punish an opponent with a bad draw like that. But yeah, if Ben doesn't really put any creatures onto the battlefield or has a stagnant hand himself, it's not completely out of the question that Shuhei could come back.
He has found that second land now. Unfortunately for him, to Prairie Stream, it's going to enter the battlefield tapped. Does he have a third land? He just drew. Ooh, he did. He found an island.
And we do know that he has, pretty close to the perfect 7 cards in his hand, since he's been discarding his worst card every turn. Yeah, who knows if he can claw back.
And he's going to sneak in a Thraben Inspector before playing his land there, Reed. That's going to be allowed to resolve. And so he's going to then play his land and now put a Smuggler's Copter on the stack.
Shuhei Nakamura, of course, one of the most decorated Magic players in the history of the game, recently hit 100,000 lifetime Planeswalker points, which, to put that in perspective, that's about double the other most decorated players in the history of Magic.
Oh, my God. And interestingly, you see Ben Sek even using a Galvanic Bombardment just to take out the lowly 1/2.
And net a couple energy for his troubles.
Mm. He's already up to a lot of energy. 9? Is that what that says? Goodness sakes.
9 energy, yep. So that represents a couple of free lightning bolts off of the Dynavolt Tower.
Dynavolt Tower gets kind of interesting in multiples. You don't get to start doing multiple lightning bolts, but you do get a lot more energy.
Now, Ben's deck, I would say, is not quite as built around Dynavolt Tower as some other decks we've seen in Standard, including at Pro Tour Kaladesh. He only has mostly Glimmer of Genius and Torrential Gearhulk and Anticipate as his card drawing spell. So he's not playing the overabundance of cycling type cards like Tormenting Voice and things like that to keep the gas flowing, although I suspect that in this game it's going to be enough.
Interestingly here, Ben is going to use a Galvanic Bombardment to kill the token from a Gideon, and then he's actually going to tap both of his Dynavolt Towers, one each, to finish off Gideon, it looks like. But he did chew up a bunch of his energy in the process, down to 2, with what looks to be a Torrential Gearhulk in his hand. Is that correct?
Looks like it.
Now, we'll find out right now if that is what he had. No, maybe not. He's going to go ahead and allow that to live. Well, no, there it is, Torrential Gearhulk.
Yeah, I think this game is sort of degenerating into Shuhei forced to just cast his best spell every turn and hope that Ben doesn't have the right answer.
Yeah, you're right. And what Ben's going to do here is he's just going to use the Gearhulk not to counter the Gideon. Instead, he's going to go ahead and flashback his Glimmer. That's going to give him enough energy to shoot down the Knight, and then he can use the Torrential Gearhulk to just finish off Gideon by attacking. So this way he gets to keep moving through his library.
Mm-hmm. That's the key. He just needs to not run out of gas with the 2 towers in play. He can kill virtually any creature that Shuhei presents. The Torrential Gearhulk, now being a big threat, can attack down the Gideon, as you said.
And, of course, Ben now with the leftover 5/6 creature after the dust settles here that threatens any future planeswalkers or just Shuhei's life total going forward. Anticipate on end step. But Shuhei says, well, it's not going to get any better than this. With the Anticipate on the stack, I'm going to fire off a Stasis Snare to gobble up your Gear Hulk. Can be risky business if that Stasis Snare were to go anywhere, but that's unlikely to happen here.
Yeah, in blue and red, there's not a lot that can take Stasis Snare off the battlefield. Maybe a bounce spell or something like that as a temporary answer.
Right. So that resolves, and Shuhei does manage to take care of the Torrential Gear Hulk. That leaves Ben back with the 2 Dynavolt Towers, which have done decent work for him this game, but he doesn't really have a win condition. Looks like I spoke too soon, Reed. There's another Torrential Gear Hulk.
And he's happy to just flash back Anticipate there. Like you said, keep going through the library, keep the energy flowing with the towers.
I believe that was a summary dismissal that he found as well, further cementing his spot as the likely victor here. I mean, it hasn't looked good for Shuhei since about turn 2 or 3. Triple tower? Wow. I've never seen 3 on the battlefield. That is a lot of energy. And Shuhei has, in fact, seen enough. He's going to pack them up. And, behind from the very, very get-go, he did get to cast a few spells, but it was kind of the situation that you and I outlined at the beginning where he wasn't going to die right away, but he also wasn't really going to win that game very often.
The game could slip out of your hands quickly. Bit of a crummy game, at least from Shuhei's perspective, but we did get to see Ben's deck do some cool things.
All right, let's jump over to Corby Waltersheet. Man, that's a hard one for me to pronounce because it's German, and I want to say it in, I just read that word in German. You know what I mean? Wow, that's a tough one. Who's this other guy? Patrick, what is that, a French last name?
Patrick Chapin.
Oh, Chapin.
Yeah.
Chapin?
Hall of Famer, Pro Tour champion.
Of course, he lives here now.
Patrick Chapin.
He has for a while in
local.
Denver. Yeah. So just, I'm assuming a short drive over for Patrick to battle in the GP here today. Like you said, of course, he's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, it's surprising given how prolific a figure Patrick is in Magic, but he actually told me that this is the first Grand Prix he's competed in this year, so he's trying to make the most of that.
Yeah, I've noticed
home
that.
Field advantage.
I've noticed that. I've gone to quite a few GPs for coverage, and I haven't seen him out that much. He's been focusing on the Pro Tour and on career stuff and that kind of thing too, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It's my assumption, at least. Here's a Nissa from Corby.
So at a glance, it looks like Patrick is playing a similar deck to Bensek here, and similarly looks like he's navigated himself into a pretty safe position with a handful of counter spells, high life total.
Now, I want to look at the other side of the table here, though, Reed. Look at the title of this deck.
Naya Energy Control.
Crazy.
Yeah, he's got Planeswalkers. Let me see if I can dig out the deck list here.
Okay.
For Corby.
Yeah, I'm curious to get your take on it. I've seen different versions of these cards configured, but I don't know that I've seen one that put them all together like this.
Yeah, this is a very unique deck. Not similar at all to what we've seen so far today.
Yeah.
Naya Super Friends is what he calls it.
Yeah, so that indicates to me that he's playing a bunch of Planeswalkers.
He is playing a ton of Planeswalkers, tremendous number of Planeswalkers, despite having a small energy theme, no Aetherworks Marvel. Just winning fair and square. Planeswalkers, a couple Wrath of Gods, some well-placed creatures.
You could see down in the, looks like the Exile Zone, there's one Planeswalker already. Certainly in the Naya colors as well. That's in the Hiri. Which other Planeswalkers does he have? We saw the Nissa on the stack. Is he playing Gideon, or what else does he have?
He has no less than 4 different Planeswalkers in his deck.
Whoa!
Chandra, Torch of Defiance, Nahiri the Harbinger, Gideon Ally of Zendikar, and Nissa Vital Force.
Wow. Man, Corby is not messing around with these Planeswalkers, but I'll tell you what, Patrick Chapin's not messing around with these Gearhulks. He puts that Gearhulk on the stack, and that actually prompts Corby to just scoop him up. He's seen enough. Interesting, the first 2 games we've watched here at round 4 have ended in the exact same way. Torrential Gearhulk, okay, I'm done.
Yeah, if I had to name actually one of Patrick's specialties as a player, I think he's extremely proficient at navigating the counterspell decks against like the slower mid-range decks. There are not many players as good as him at that. So he's right in his comfort zone here.
He probably is, because there was a long stretch where he was really well known for playing almost primarily control decks. He tended to gravitate toward Grixis control, but he would play control decks for a good stretch of his career, and then he kind of moved over a little bit into the more mid-range grindy decks, which often do play out like control decks, but also have the option occasionally to just beat down. Mm-hmm. God, now he just knows how both of them work perfectly inside and out. How scary is that if you're sitting on the other side, right? He's got a control deck this time, but not only was he good at playing control decks before, now he knows exactly what your deck's trying to do, even like down to the little details. It's pretty scary stuff to sit across from Patrick at this point.
You can really see decades of hard work paying off in a player like that.
Yeah.
So we've talked about Patrick Chapin, we've talked about Shuhei Nakamura, but Ben Sek is no slouch either. He's been around for a long time, very accomplished player.
TBS.
TBS, yep.
That's his nickname.
Ben Sek.
Yeah, it just stands for the Ben Sek.
You want to know a fun fact about Ben?
God, yes, I do.
He has won something in the ballpark of 26 PTQs, nearly 30 PTQs.
Wow. The grinder's grinder?
Yeah, I mean,
that is incredible.
That is many years of hard work on Ben Sek's part as well.
Yeah. God, I think didn't he win a GP in Africa?
South Africa, yep. Which they haven't held a Grand Prix, at least to my knowledge, in Africa in many, many years. But Ben is the reigning champion.
Good for him. I remember having a chat with him about that, and I think maybe Kai went or something. Like, there's some story. It's not at the front of my brain, but there's some stuff happened there with Ben.
Yeah, if you want to hear all the old stories about the old days of the Pro Tour, Ben is a good guy to talk to.
Apparently, nobody told Shuhei about the pile shuffle once thing that that they changed.
Yeah, the good news for both players is that first game finished relatively quickly, so
it really did.
They'll have time to play a long, chess-like match if that's what the game proves to be.
And God, I hope it does.
Yeah,
like 2 players of this caliber, I want to see them go at it. I don't want to see Shuhei discard the hand size 3 times, 4 times in a row.
Same here.
Once again, Jordan Stout and Isak.
All right, well, Shuhei's going to be on the play.
To the red gathering point.
You even get one more, Shuhei. No, he mulliganed.
Actually, looks like both players have mulligans.
That's right. I got fooled because they were both shuffling at the same time. All right, well, Ben went on the bottom and Shuhei on top, and Shuhei even has a 1-drop to kick things off, so good start for him. Nothing for Ben yet, but that's not unusual. This is a big turn, though, right? I mean, Shuhei plays a copter or something.
Yeah, I see a very
Which he didn't, by the way.
Interesting, potent sideboard card in Ben's hand, and there it is, Thing in the Ice.
Oh, he brought that into the board, huh?
Ooh, but Shuhei is the answer.
He revolutionary rebuffed it. We were talking about that card at breakfast, you and I, Reed, and with Luis and Gabby, and we said it's a conditional counter spell, but it got the job done there, didn't it?
Yeah, we did a deck tech with Andrew Cuneo, who's playing a similar, controlling blue-red-white deck, and we got to Revolutionary Rebuff. I said, tell us about this card. He said, it's bad. This is a bad card.
Bad card.
You need it sometimes.
Yeah, Andrew Cuneo, not known for pulling punches when it comes to his card evaluations.
Certainly not.
I do find this really interesting, by the way. Once again, we see Ben just firing off a Galvanic Bombardment to kill, of all things, a 1/2 creature on the battlefield. And you will see that from this blue-red deck because they just don't really have any way to catch back up, right? I mean,
Yeah, and
Those cards actually matter somehow.
if he's not able to land a card like Thing in the Ice, it can be surprisingly annoying for him to deal with even a small persistent attacker like a Thraben Inspector.
Yeah.
He doesn't have blockers. He doesn't have cards like Fumigate to really clean up the mess. So he actually is forced to 1-for-1 all of these cards.
Which is just a strange sight. Normally, a control deck you'd think would be quite happy to take one a turn from a little creature, but you've seen him consistently snap those off at the earliest convenience. By the way, he did go for a Glimmer of Genius there, but it got void shattered from Shuhei. So, Shuhei showing that his deck can also play the control route quite nicely if it needs to. Though with the Gideon on the stack, it looks like Ben is going to go for a second copy of Glimmer of Genius, though there's nothing really for Shuhei to worry about here. He knows his Gideon's going to resolve here, right?
Yeah, nothing for 1 blue or red mana that's going to stop the Gideon.
It's got to be good news for Shuhei. I mean, again, if Ben is forced to 1-for-1, then this Gideon represents at bare minimum, a 2-for-1, right? And even then, it's hard to imagine that he doesn't get at least another card out of the deal.
Yeah, the only very narrow out that Ben can have is a 6th land plus a Galvanic Bombardment. Then he can attack with Wandering Fumarole.
Okay.
But that's a lot of ifs, including, Shuhei could just have something to stop that in his hand.
With the 2 mana that he had left over. And yeah, it looks like Ben is just going to have to face down the full brunt force of a Gideon. This is going to get very difficult for him, because one of the things that you'll see from the blue-white flash deck, and one of the reasons why this deck is so good is because now Shuhei can, instead of using his counter spells to defend against what Ben's doing, he can just protect his board state now. Ooh, here we go.
So this is just what Ben needs to get back into the game, both drawing himself some more action and stabilizing the board a little bit. You could tell Shuhei was not surprised by this based on the way he used his Gideon that turn, just producing another blocker on the ground.
He also didn't attack with the knight.
Yep.
So
great point.
He knew. Not knew, but he knew.
And it would take a lot of burn spells for Ben to be able to force the Gearhulk through the blockers, because even if he burns a knight, Shuhei can crew the Copter in response.
So Ben's going to have to settle for chipping away at the ground forces here with his Gearhulk. But, one of the things that you'll see here is sometimes Shuhei just says, sure, make Gideon a creature, right? Bang, hit you for 8, maybe even 10. Those type of turns happen where you lose a huge chunk of your life total in one big swing, and all of a sudden Ben's game plan is much, much different. We'll see how this actually goes from this point. Looks like Shuhei considering just making another knight. There's only 3 mana available for Ben's Sec. Can you see how much energy he has? Is it 5?
It's a little off the screen. It should be something in that ballpark. I think 2 Glimmer of Geniuses and the Ether Hub.
So that would be 5. So here's Fragmentize now from Shuhei Nakamura to kill the Dynavolt Tower, but Ben decides, I'm going to protect it, and it was 5, by the way, because the Void Shatter bumped it up to 7. And now Shuhei has to tread lightly here. He's got to be careful.
Yeah, so he really wanted to get the tower off the table right away, maybe force Ben's hand on using it so that he could safely activate the Smuggler's Copter afterwards. But Ben says no thank you.
I think Shuhei may have drawn himself a Stasis Snare, though he only just flashed it briefly. So we may have to wait to find out. Is that Ben's hand right there? A Glimmer of Genius and a Gearhulk plus a red card? Maybe a...
Yeah, I think that might be Tears of Valakut.
Oh, is that what it is?
End of turn, burn the Gideon. So he decides that this is an easier route to getting the Planeswalker off the table than actually trying to kill the blockers and attack.
Ooh, another Void Shatter for Ben Sec.
Yeah, so this is what we were hoping for. A really close, complicated game.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of options for both players. One option available to Ben here is he could just tap out for a main phase Gearhulk. One advantage of that is Revolutionary Rebuff can't counter artifacts.
Right.
So he would be reasonably confident in resolving at least the Gear Hulk portion of it. But I'm not sure what he'll do, because part of the strength of this blue-red deck is being able to play at instant speed and compete with the blue-white flash deck on that angle.
Looks like he's going to go for a main phase Glimmer of Genius instead.
Totally reasonable.
Does want to hit a land here to leave up that Void Shatter. This, of course, gives him enough energy to use that Dynavolt Tower to finish off Gideon, which was a big piece of the puzzle for him. And no, he's only got the 2 mana left over. In the meantime, he's got a place to put that 2 mana here with that Tears.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Archangel Avacyn was the draw from before from Shuhei. It was not a stasis snare. It was much worse for Ben Sek. He's going to protect his Smuggler's Copter.
Tears of Valakut cannot be countered, but still doesn't do much against an indestructible creature.
Wow. What a blowout.
Yeah, that's a huge swing in this game. So Ben's pressing need is to get rid of these flying creatures. Tears of Valakut is a great start.
Okay, he gets rid of the big one, Avacyn down. And he's almost all the way there to shoot down the Smuggler's Copter if it gets active with his Dynavolt Tower. And he actually has enough in hand. So he set himself up to be able to get his Dynavolt Tower enough energy by using Anticipate and also protect against something big with a Void Shatter here.
I like this from Ben, sort of playing possum with the Anticipate in hand. He really wants Shuhei to get greedy and activate the Smuggler's Copter so that he can shoot it down.
You can see why people love this deck.
Yeah. And I think it really excels in a matchup like this, where most of your opponent's cards are just normal-sized creatures that you can burn down, that you can use Dynavolt Tower on.
So Void Shatter takes care of a Fragmentize that was once again looking to hit the tower. Oh, but Shuhei has another Archangel Avacyn. Jeez. Shuhei has it all. Vensek was like, hey, if you're going to activate this copter, I'm going to shoot it down with my tower. I kind of have to here, right? But Shuhei, of course, says, well, I wasn't just going to throw it into it willy-nilly.
Mm-hmm.
I've got what I am saying I've got. Bad news for Ben Sek, though.
So Ben is forced to come up with an answer again for the Archangel Avacyn.
Which I believe he has. I think he has a Harness Lightning. He's already got 3 energy, which would be enough.
And we think he still has a Torrential Gear Hulk in hand.
He does,
right?
yeah. I saw that before, too. So there's no way that Archangel Avacyn should be on the battlefield when he ships a turn here unless he chooses for that to happen.
Mm-hmm. Boy, what a great game.
Yeah, this has been fantastic. Hey, we asked for it, Reed.
Yeah. I think that Ben has a good chance of being able to take control here. If Shuhei has to take a turn off, in the sense of he doesn't draw another threat to add to the board, this could turn out well for Ben.
Ben's deciding if he wants to use a Tears of Valakut or a Harness Lightning, but
Tears makes more sense.
he decides he'd rather have the energy. Yeah, so.
And now we see essentially the same situation we saw a second ago, where Shuhei is not really able to activate the Smuggler's Copter into the 5 energy in the Dynavolt Tower.
Oh, but another Gideon off the top for Shuhei Nakamura.
And that could just be cashed in for an emblem right away.
And that's what he's doing, Reed.
Making the Smuggler's Copter big enough to survive.
And a 2-turn clock rather than 3-turn clock. What a big draw step for Shuhei Nakamura.
Yeah, I love that play from Shuhei, because in the face of 2 Torrential Gear Hulks, it's going to be so difficult to keep the Planeswalker on the battlefield anyway. You might as well just cash in for the guaranteed value.
Man, that was great. Now things get really cool, though.
Ben just needs any instant speed burn spell that can combo with the Dynavolt Tower to take out the Smuggler's Copter.
And I'm pretty sure he's already got it. I think he has a Harness Lightning in his hand, possibly. No, maybe not. I don't see it now. So, yeah, he's going to need to find it. Well,
Yeah, he's got his pick of the litter.
there's two out of three of his reveals from the Anticipate fit that description. So now he can choose a Harness Lightning or a Galvanic Bombardment. It looks like he went for the cheaper option with the Bombardment. I'm really curious to see what happens now, though, from his side. Is he attacking maybe one of the Gear Hulks, maybe both of the Gear Hulks, maybe none of the Gear Hulks?
Yeah, it's a tough decision. He does want to close the game quickly, and he has the ability to do so with 10 power worth of attackers, but he definitely doesn't want to leave any window for things to go wrong in this turn.
Void Shatter was the draw step there for Shuhei Nakamura, and that could seal it up if Ben only has one way. Man, Shuhei's had some really nice draws.
It's actually Shuhei drew a Spell Shrivel, which is
it was a Spell
perfect
Shrivel.
to not be able to counter this
No.
Galvanic Bombardment.
So the fact that Ben Sek took the Galvanic Bombardment and not the Harness Lightning is actually the difference here? Oh, my God.
yeah, it's funny how these small details can add up.
Oh, that's insane. Because you totally could have seen the upside of him saying, "Oh, I'll take the Harness Lightning because maybe he can get some energy out of it, or if he doesn't need to use it or whatever." Like there's some flexibility there, but he doesn't. And wow, did that pay off for him? Spell Shrivel.
Chosen over Void Shatter because of the mana requirements of this blue-white flash deck.
What do we have here? A double block from Shuhei? Maybe he just chunked.
It was a double block. The 2/3/3 Knights, one of them trading off against the Torrential Gear Hulk.
Sure. Land off the top for Shuhei. You can see Shuhei reminding Ben that he does have the emblem still. And now it all comes down to this. A Knight versus a very large Gear Hulk, though that is a lethal Knight. But with Wandering Fumaroles plus any number of instants that can get the Dynavolt Tower active, Shuhei certainly can't count on that Knight getting the job done, even though it is lethal.
Scary stuff. Ben's stabilized at 3 life. He has no life gain in his deck. So he just needs to tread carefully, make sure not to leave himself open to anything.
Now he's attacking for lethal here, and this is where things start to get pretty awkward for Shuhei. He needs to find something pretty impressive. And he does. He finds the Stasis Snare.
So I like Shuhei's careful navigation here. He made sure to block with the Knight first and then cast the Stasis Snare. This means that if Ben has a counterspell, which he does, he cannot use the energy from the Dynavolt Tower to kill the Knight and threaten lethal.
Right, which he would have been able to do just by default if Shuhei had played differently. Unfortunately for Shuhei, 2 counterspells in hand for Ben Sek. Void Shatter, the hard counter, and then the rebuff to counter what was going to be the 3rd Archangel Avacyn of the game for Shuhei Nakamura. And Ben Sek maneuvers his way beautifully here to pick up the win. In fact, the match win against Shuhei Nakamura. Impressive stuff from both of these players.
Yeah, great game and nice job by both players, I thought.
Oof. That's an interesting matchup.
Yeah, I think Ben would be happy if he can get that matchup. A lot of times over the course of this tournament, his deck is, to put it quite simply, great at killing creatures, and it's just the scary non-creature stuff or perhaps the super fast decks that he wants to dodge.
Yeah, it's got to be annoying when you're playing a creature-based deck and you face down a Dynavolt Tower that does a really good job of killing a lot of important creatures in the format. 3 toughness is definitely a... you can make a pretty nice list of good creatures in the format that have 3 toughness. For Shuhei, most of his creatures.
Almost everything short of the Archangel Avacyn in this blue-white flash deck.
Yeah. Just being able to on board kill spell quellers, got to be a big deal too.
So we had seen Patrick Chapin win Game 1 of this matchup, but Game 2 looks to be close with Corby Waltersheed having resolved Nissa Vital Force.
Now, it looks like we came in at just the right time for Patrick Chapin fans as well, because he's got a torrential gear hulk rumbling. He also fired himself up a wandering fumarole to make sure that Nissa Vital Force took full lethal, and that's left Corby with nothing but lands on the battlefield. Things not looking good for Corby here.
So a similar dynamic that we saw in the Bensuk Shuhei Nakamura match, where if the blue-red control deck can actually get a creature into play, the abundance of removal and permission makes it so hard to defend Planeswalkers. So cards that are traditionally control killers, like Gideon Ally of Zendikar, become not so effective in the face of a Torrential Gearhulk.
That's right. And on top of it, Chapin has a lot of different counter spells at his disposal to use to keep those at bay, which he just did. In fact, he used the negate to counter that Gideon. And those Gearhulks. Ooh, Chapin says, I got Planeswalkers too. How about a Jace Unraveler of Secrets here from Chapin? How many of those is he playing? Do we have this list here somewhere? Here it is. Let's take a look there. He's got one in the board.
One in the sideboard, one Jace.
Well, he's got one on the sideboard, and it's on the battlefield, and things are looking real tough here for Corby. Oh.
Ooh, that's a big play.
Here we go. If that resolves Revolutionary Rebuff, man, that card has been sweet today.
Yeah, it's doing some work.
It's countering all types of stuff. But the Quarantine Field did threaten to take the two big permanents off the battlefield for Chapin if he didn't have a way to deal with it, but no, he did.
Oh, I think they just we have a score update that these players are actually in Game 3 here.
Oh, wow, I see that now. Okay.
But either way, my best prediction is that Patrick Chapin's going to be able to close this one out safely and securely with the Jace and a full hand of answers.
You ever consider laying your lands out how Patrick does? He always separates them so that he can tap them individually and knows exactly which land. You know, it's a way so that both players always know exactly what each other player has available.
I like it, and there's certain subtleties of information that you can give away based on the way you stack your lands, based on the way you cut your lands when you're getting ready to cast a spell. Patrick avoids all of that by keeping it super clean, super clear, and just tapping one land at a time.
Yeah, it's also courteous to the opponent.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes you'll have a creature land that'll be sitting in there somewhere. By the way, that was the match. Patrick Chapin once again puts Torrential Gearhulk on the stack, and once again Corby has to say, all right, that's the one that broke the camel's back, and he's going to have to extend the hand here, and Patrick Chapin is going to improve to 4-0 in his home GP. It's not only his home GP. We've got a lot of them, but yeah, that's going to do it for our live coverage of round 4. We'll be back after these messages.